Where I'm from, down there in Pittsburgh, we got some crazy stuff going on.
Pittsburgh has an accent. They also lost to the Capitals in the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. Never forget that. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. It is Thursday, July the 2nd. July the 2nd. I don't know why I said it this way.
July. I like that. I like that, though.
It's just July.
Yeah, no, but like July.
Do you think DC has an accent? Like, do you think DC has an accent?
I don't think so. No.
You don't think so? Mm-mm. I think DC proper might have an accent, but Northern Virginia.
Where I'm from, down there in Pittsburgh, we got some crazy stuff going on.
Pittsburgh has an accent. They also lost to the Capitals in the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. Never forget that. Never.
The one time we lost.
Never ever forget that. So in today's video, we're going to be covering 3 topics that I'm excited to get into because I feel like we may disagree on 1 or 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
So let's just dive into it right now. The first topic is precisely listed houses. So houses that are precisely priced. And when we're talking about a precisely priced house, it's not $500,000, it's $501,253. And the reason that we're talking about this is because I was actually sent a video by my good friend Chris Healy. Shout out Chris Healy, what's up, man? And in the video, a report had come out a few years ago stating that precisely priced homes sell for more money than homes that have a 0 at the end of it. So Shawn, at first glance, what are your thoughts on a study like that?
Very interesting. I know there's psychological things that go into pricing because I use them. But to the dollar is interesting. I always look at them and like, wow, that's a weird price. Like, I always kind of am turned off by them because I feel like, all right, go ahead and price it perfectly, whatever. I'll just price it a little higher than you,
Yeah. So in the study, it said that these homes sold for like $1,300 more than the homes with a 0. They looked at 2 markets, one in Florida and then I believe one in Long Island. It was a study by Cornell University. So the mindset was if it's precisely priced, then buyers will think it's worth more. Like if there were 2 homes, you had the option of listing at $450, and one was $450, and one was $451, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You would buy that one because of some psychological reason.
Yeah, but the psychological problem with that is the reality problem of what if you set your cap at $450 and you miss it by $1,000, right? So you think about the searches that we set up for people, and sometimes we'll max them out and they'll say, oh, my max price is $450. I always go a little higher than that for them. But if you price it $1,000 higher, then you're missing all those people that could have been in your search, but you missed them by $1,000 because you precisely priced it. So psychologically, you could think of it as 2 different things, right? Are you missing all these other buyers just because you're trying to psychologically get these people to think you're worth that exact amount? Or is it better just to price it at a 99 number, 9900 or whatever it is, and psychologically they're, instead of $950, they're $949.9 because they think it's in the 940s and it's a little bit cheaper, right?
Yeah, in going off of that, if you're thinking around like the 950 mark, if you're priced at 951, that has just got to be the worst price possible. Because at that price, why not just do 949.9? So like Shawn said, everyone underneath that's looking up to 950 is going to see that. So there are a bunch of different factors. It was a study from 2008, and I'm not sure how relevant exact pricing is in the market. I did pull a few numbers, Shawn. Pop quiz, there are 329 properties in Arlington, Virginia that are currently for sale or coming soon.
That's a lot.
329, it is a lot, thankfully. How many of these properties do you think are precisely priced? And when I say precisely priced, not $999,
to the
not
dollar,
$888, not $250, like literally,
My guess would be 2.
You're pretty close. You're
All right.
pretty close. Three.
I was off by one. That's pretty good.
That was amazing.
Thanks, Owen.
Out of 300 properties?
Yeah, see, people
Did you
just
look?
don't. No, I didn't.
That
I
was
can't see
impressive.
that. Thank you.
And so, of those three, of course, they've just been on the market forever. One's been on the market for 60 days. One's been on the market for 90 days. One's been on the market for 120 days. I believe two of them have gone through price reductions, and then one of them is actually new construction. And I think that may be literally the only time when precisely priced properties make sense, because they have all these little factors. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in new construction homes. I have sold some in the past, but if you're going with the exact prices and then you play around with all the upgrades and whatnot, that's where I see that making sense.
I'd be interested to find out what was their first perfectly priced home reduced, and was it perfectly priced again, and what was the difference, and why was that perfectly priced home reduced by that perfect amount?
They're just playing games. Like, just drop it to a real amount, and don't play the game.
Yeah, I think psychologically, no one cares at that point. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think you're pricing it right below that threshold, and that's where you need to be, personally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next topic involves the World Cup, which I confirmed with Shawn before this is indeed soccer. We were talking about soccer. Do they play soccer in Pittsburgh?
Soccer? I didn't watch much soccer,
They don't
man. I
play
wasn't
much-
a soccer guy. I
they
was
don't
hockey
play-
and football.
They don't
No,
play
they
much
do.
soccer
They do.
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
As everyone knows, and now that Shawn knows, the 2026 World Cup is going to be held in North America, with the United States hosting most of the games, and our friendly neighbors to the north and to the south, Canada and Mexico, also hosting games. And this is news and relevant because DC has thrown their hat into the ring for eligible cities for contention of actually hosting a World Cup game. I'm just going to keep talking about the World Cup, and if you want to chime in, you can do it. So,
why don't you just keep talking about that?
in 1994, as we all know,
As we all know. Let's go on. Tell me about it.
the United States, of course, hosted the World Cup. Brazil was in their heyday. The final match was actually quite a barn burner, a 0-0 tie, and then Brazil won on PKs.
How old were you at that point?
I was 4,
That's
which
amazing.
was old enough to go to a game because RFK Stadium held a few matches, and I actually
cool.
attended Saudi
here.
Arabia versus Belgium, which Saudi Arabia beat Belgium. Actually, one of the best goals of the entire tournament was scored in that game. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put the link to that goal.
Bal passeert, Chivo, overname Saudi-Arabië. Bijna 5 minuten gespeeld. Albayram met een goede ren. Albayram, ja, die kan wel iets. Doet één ding te veel. Nee, hij scoort. Albayram 0-1.
But RFK was a host city. They did host one of the group matches. And in that year, there were 9 cities that hosted the 94 World Cup. And RFK was the 9th smallest stadium. So they were the smallest stadium. RFK, of course, is no longer in use right now. Back then, it was 53,000. Of course, since the World Cup may be coming to DC, the stadium that they would consider would be FedEx Field, which, I mean, it holds 70,000 to 90,000, but then they took away some seats because Dan Snyder couldn't sell them. And now Mayor Bowser wants the World Cup to be held in DC, at least for a few games. So in terms of having a big event in DC like the World Cup, this isn't like the Olympics where you're going to build a bunch of infrastructure and then, you're going to see like the 2008, like China, like Beijing stadiums, like not in use anymore. This is an actual city. So what are your thoughts on DC hosting the World Cup?
I think it's always a good thing. Economically, it's going to spur the, everything in DC for that however long it is. But I don't know, is it more of a nightmare at the same time? It's going to screw up traffic for a long time for us actual residents that are already, dealing with traffic headaches and nightmares. But I think it's always good for a city to host something like that, personally. I think economically it's going to bring in so much money and spur the economy, which we need right now.
Yeah, and you make a really good point, because that was one of the first things out of Mayor Bowser's mouth, was that it would create, I believe, something like 3,500 new jobs for the local economy. Everyone wants new jobs. But on the same token, I think that DC would be a terrible host for the World Cup, simply because, have you been to FedEx Field before?
Oh, it's awful.
It is
impossible to get to.
Horrific experience.
I've gone to, people are like, hey, you want to go to a Skins game? I'm like, no.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. I mean, if you go for a Monday night game, you got to leave at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't get back, until midnight, unless you're leaving at halftime. But when it comes down to it, if there's going to be 5 to 10 cities in the United States, there's probably going to be close to 7. There are so many better options. Cities like New York, Atlanta, Houston, Orlando, Los Angeles, cities that actually have better stadiums. I mean, when was FedEx Field built? The 1990s. And this brings me to my next point, is I think that this is more of a play for Mayor Bowser to get a new stadium in DC, Shawn. Follow the dollar sign. DC is going to throw their hat in the ring. Dan Snyder is going to get a little excited about more events coming to FedEx Field. And I think DC is going to lose out because of FedEx Field. And I think that's going to be a contributing factor
to get the stadium in.
Getting the stadium into the District of Columbia, which is what Mayor Bowser has always wanted to do.
Where would they
which
put
is
it?
Have NFL football being played inside of DC.
Please. Well, just take down the old one and put up the new one, right?
That is most likely.
I was driving by
where
that
it
the
would
other day.
go.
It's pretty rusted out.
I
It's time to
don't
go.
have experience building stadiums. It's not, I don't wake up and design stadiums, but 2026 is still 6 years out. So, I mean, we're seeing how fast they can build a stadium in Qatar in the Middle East under horrific conditions, albeit terrible workers' rights over there. But I think this is more of, I don't think this is a serious bid. I think this is a money move to showcase how terrible FedEx Field is, to help other influential people in DC show that a new stadium should be built in DC so it could host events like this.
Absolutely. Having a stadium in Maryland for DC events is awful. The metro line out there, it takes forever. I mean, you got to think, there's fans in all 3 jurisdictions, and it's impossible for Virginian people to get to that field. It's so hard. So pulling it into DC, that's a good ploy. That's a good work. How many other cities are there that are throwing their hats in for this? Do you know?
There are
a lot, probably.
There's at least 10.
Yeah. I would say we've got a low shot on it.
But
I mean, that's smart. It's
I
a
think
smart
even
play.
Baltimore would be a better option.
Yeah.
I think DC is a better city for obvious reasons. But I think have you been to M&T Bank Stadium?
No, I've never been.
It's
been around
sick.
it, but never. Yeah,
it's so nice.
Yeah.
And the little downtown area at Fells Point.
Oh yeah,
Baltimore is a really
gorgeous.
cool downtown area, and I think it would be a much better host than DC. I think pretty much every other city, simply because they have better stadiums.
Well, yeah, like when Camden Yards was built, it was the coolest new stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, that transformed that area.
And
I mean, it's
stadiums
awesome.
are becoming kind of difficult for public money sponsoring them. Like, you don't want to be a city that pays public money to build a stadium. Like, they've done the reports. It's terrible for the city itself.
Yeah.
But if you can work out some sort of partnership where the team or the billionaire owner, I know it's a long shot, is paying for that stadium, I think bringing a stadium to DC is the end game here.
Yeah. That'd be sweet.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on DC stadiums. All right, so the third topic that we're going to cover today is properties that go under contract within 24 hours. I was reading an article, and agents always brag about on social media, oh, I got this under contract in 24 hours, in 12 hours, it was barely on the market. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because what's the goal? The goal is to get the highest price and the best contract. Are you going to get that in 12 hours? I mean, you spent half a year getting it ready to sell. What are your
What I'll
thoughts?
say about that is our goal is always to get the best contract and the highest price, but not every agent is like that. There's other agents that are like, you give me a deal, I'm done. Move on to the next one. You're just like a commodity, boom, boom, in and out, in and out. So if we're selling it, I think our goal is always to get the highest price. Now, is that 24 hours? Is it the best deal that you're going to get? I'll play both sides to this. I just recently got a place under contract. The first day, I had 2 people say that they were going to write. And I played the game that we always play, and I said, well, we're not going to review offers until after the weekend, so Monday or Tuesday. And then it was like, are people going to show the property? So psychologically, as a listing agent, as a seller, you're going through your own psychological things. Well, what if these people, now that more inventory is coming on, they have more options to look at, and what if they see something else during that weekend that those 2 that they like better and they fall out? So there's both ways of playing that. Personally, I'm always going to wait to see what traffic is like. Hold them off at least 24, 48 hours before we entertain an offer, especially in a super hot market like this. But as inventory starts flooding in, and we can feel the market kind of shift slightly either way, and that's when you start thinking, all right, now maybe it makes sense to start thinking about a quicker sale. Maybe not 24 hours, but maybe before the weekend. What I normally do is look at what kind of sale or what kind of showings we're getting for that listing and then make a decision. And if we're not seeing a quick reaction to it, then maybe thinking about the quicker one is the way to go.
Is there a set amount of showings that you'd like to see? 5 in the first 24 hours, 10 in the first 24 hours?
Yeah, it's
what is that number?
I need like 10. I need 10
in one day.
In
a weekend?
No, before Friday, right? So
Friday.
So if we come on Thursday and Friday, if I'm not seeing like I did a coming soon this time. I rarely do coming soons, but coming soon worked in this regard. We had a few showings on that first day because it was coming soon, and then we had a few the next day, but it wasn't like a ton. We had good showings. We had a lot of interest, but could it have, what's the number? I don't know. I guess it's different for every listing, right? If it's a 1-bedroom condo, I better see a ton. If it's a single-family house for over $1 million, then naturally it's going to be a little slower. So you just have to kind of weigh each listing as you go.
Yeah, and when you get the offer, you're also advising your clients. I was just on the phone with actually a friend, a pickleball friend, and she was saying,
that's another conversation.
Yeah, and she was saying that she owned a condo in a resort where the average days on markets, the average time that it takes to sell these properties is 4 years. That's what she said. I took her at face value, whether that's true or not. I did look online, and properties were sitting for
I'm not your guy.
time. 4
years?
I mean, just imagine that. But then she did say that when she did get an offer, the agent just sent it to her and said, let me know what you think.
Yeah.
There was no advising there. So when you're getting these offers and it's before the weekend, what sort of advising are you doing to your client when maybe the buyer put on a deadline, or maybe you think another offer is coming in, but you're not quite sure?
Yeah, and this is the thing, is you've got to talk to your sellers to really feel where their psychology is. If they're like, I just want an offer and I'm done, then, and you pass up that offer and then you don't get one later.
Yeah.
I personally haven't been on, but I know a few guys you're watching right now. I know that you've been in that situation and you passed it up, and guess what? No one else wrote, and then they write a lower offer later. So it can be a dagger if you mess up, and that's why it's important to watch the showings that you're getting and really talk to your client and say, are you ready to pass this up? Should we counter them? And that's another thing you could do, right? They come in at full price and they say, all right, we'll give you full price. Well, that's what you're asking. Well, all right, how about giving us X amount more because we're taking it off before everybody's had a chance to see it? And maybe that's your best play.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're accepting an offer within 24 hours, I hope that maybe you countered that offer first. You could get greedy, right? You could get greedy, but if someone is so inclined to write an amazing offer in the first 24 hours, why not just counter them on one term? Hey, do the home inspection for void only. Hey, can you waive the financing? What are they going to say? Are they going to pack up their ball and go home? No, they're probably either going to say yes or no. It's only to your advantage to work with them a little bit. So offers that go under contract in the first 24 hours, I'm not sure if that's something to brag about. If anything, I mean, we're going into 4th of July weekend. I take my new listing off the market tomorrow if we get a contract, then maybe I missed out on people that had been traveling that were excited to see this on Monday or Tuesday. So I think being on the market for, this sounds so silly, but being on the market for at least 7 days, you know, I think is somewhat advisable, or at least through the weekend. I mean, we're in such a crazy market that most properties would kill to be on the market for only 7 days, but by and large, you probably want to stay on the market at least through the weekend.
I'll tell you what, you know, we were coming soon on this particular listing. We went through the weekend, and from Thursday through Tuesday, it felt like an eternity, really. For my clients, they were like, should we just move this up? I'm like, no, just relax. You know, it'll be all right. So, you know, it's all a psychological game both ways. You know, you got to see the seller's side and you got to see the buyer's side, and sometimes it's not easy to make that choice. You know.
Would you do the same thing again, knowing what you know now with that property?
I would.
You would.
We did the right thing. We ended up getting awesome contracts, multiple contracts, and then the other thing is pre-inspections. So if you give them enough time and you say, hey, we'll allow a pre-inspection, they're going to do the inspection because they're going to be competing, and then you get this amazing contract where it's not contingent on the home inspection. They've already done it. So that's exactly what we got, and we got higher than asking. So it worked.
There you go. Cool. Well, that just about wraps up another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. Do you have anything else?
Let's go watch some soccer.
Let's go watch some soccer. Big soccer guy. Soccer's back.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't
taught.
taught soccer. Like, I played soccer when I was little for about a year. I didn't know anything about it. No one taught me anything. And so I was a little kid just kind of running the field. But my daughter plays soccer, and she loves it. And actually, it's a lot of fun. So.
Let's get out to Audi Field.
Let's do it.
Check it out sometime. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. For Shawn and myself, till next time, we'll see you then.